Thank you very much. First of all, very warm greetings to all of you, and thanks to our colleagues in Russia for inviting me to join this session. I'm Sanjay Kumar, and I represent Geospatial Media and World Geospatial Industry Council. I'm going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to share some of my thoughts about how the geospatial industry is evolving around the world. Uh, to start with, I must, really appreciate that Alessandro talked about Al Gore. I think we as a geospatial community owe a lot to Al Gore because he's the one who led opening of geospatial industry after the end of Cold War in 1990s. It was Bill Clinton and Al Gore as a team who opened up the internet and who also made the legislation to develop the first positioning, navigation, and timing policy, which allowed GPS to be more accurate and freely available. And it is that administration which also gave the first commercial license to have a space-based Earth observation satellite in the orbit by a private company. A lot happened in 1990s, and we see that commoditization, or rather say, I would say engineering applications of geospatial technology began in 1990s, and you'll see host of companies like Autodesk, Bentley, GE Small World came into business, and they are the ones who actually opened the whole industry to everyone else. Otherwise, we were very limited to the decision support system. I must say that maps are not just driving apps, they are driving economies too. And this is a statement which is no more a statement which is a kind of exaggeration, but this is a reality. And why I would say reality? Because if you would notice, worldwide, the governments have been focusing on making an assessment of geospatial value and its impact on society and economy, though we don't have enough scientifically done studies, but there have been several initiatives which have been working towards defining and deriving the economic and social benefits of the geospatial technology and the work which we as a community do, and also identifying the dimension of where. And the dimension of where is everywhere, I would say. I think it's well-known fact. Let's see. And that well-known fact is in the mainstream media everywhere we are talking about. And the most important word which I like about the world economy runs on GPS. And just imagine that if the GPS or GNSS, for that matter, stops for a day, what kind of chaos we will be in. All our logistics, all our navigation, all our mobility, all our supply chain, and in fact, all our search today is based on where location. You don't go to search on google.com, but rather you go to search on maps.google.com because it takes your location automatically and it makes your search very localized. So the location is a category of search today. It's no more just an application. What's geospatial industry and digital ecosystem? This is a slide which I really love about it. It's a bit old, but the fundamentals go longer. So geospatial industry at the moment, I would define into four categories rather: GNSS and positioning technologies, GIS and spatial analytics technology, Earth observation, and 3D scanning. And when I say Earth observation, I mean space to surface, right from space to aerial to UAVs on the ground. And these technologies have been very well facilitated by standards, open data, interconnected systems, and that facilitation has further embedded the processes. The processes are of business intelligence or digital engineering or automation workflow. And these are the three things which we see primarily, which is driving the geospatial technology. We are seeing plethora of companies in the IT side looking at developing business intelligence or the actionable intelligence. And we are looking at the digital engineering, which means that all the manufacturing and engineering world is looking at using this technology, and they are embedding geospatial capabilities into their workflows, be it BIM or be it SCADA or be it several other kind of engineering applications. And workflow automation. This is interesting because even the machines need a spatial dimension to move. So robotics or automobiles, all that automation which we are going through is driven by the spatial dimension, and very high quality spatial dimension, which is probably real-time data collection and data processing and data application. But how do we deliver all this? What we do is in the form of enterprise applications, social media applications, apps, or the web portals. And these platforms are serving the citizens or businesses and the government. So that's the kind of whole ecosystem of geospatial technology and the digital technologies. I just conveyed that GNSS and Earth observation and GIS are the primary pillars, and they have several sub pillars as well. I would not go in detail. This slide is available for you to have a look at somewhere whenever you feel like. But what interesting is that getting back to digital Earth or digital twin, I must give a kind of appreciation to the founders of Digital Earth. Way back in 1999, they started talking about Digital Earth and what is nothing but digital twin today in a very comprehensive and mature manner. Digital twin, as Alessandro talked about, is just a real-time representation of physical world in digital environment, and physical world involves the infrastructure, assets, and the human beings too. And geospatial brings the visual aspect of it and the locational aspect of it. It makes it very, very local. It makes it very, very understandable. And without geospatial, there is no digital twin, I must say that. And the 5G kind of technologies would actually empower the real-time processing and applicability of geospatial technology on your device level. And that is the kind of power which we'll have in the digital age. Big data, of course, again, I would say that there's a big component of geospatial data into the big data. And this is the connectivity of geospatial with the mainstream industry 4.0. I have no hesitation in saying that the industry 4.0 has four pillars. One is big data, second is AI, third is IoT, and fourth is location. And location has such an important role to play, though it is not as much recognized earlier as today. And thanks to various initiatives which are going on around the world, that digital and geospatial and location are a mainstream technology now. We do hear almost at the highest level of the government and the industry talking about these technologies. And why not? These are the kind of data sets which we bring together. Amazing kinds of data sets which we as a community bring together. Geospatial data, location data. There are hundreds of types of sensors which are delivering or capturing and delivering different kind of locational and geospatial data. And that is why geospatial is one of the foundations to the data economy. I would say that today's economy is revolving around data, and that's where I think the importance of development is directly connected with the readiness of making use of the data and readiness of developing the digital infrastructure. That how much are you able to make use of the data in your socioeconomic activities, and that is where you see that the country is developing at what speed and in which direction. I would say, what is the geospatial? Next slide, I would focus on geospatial industry, its value and user impact. There are a lot of applications, and this slide talks about what is the kind of resolutions which we are using of geospatial data for what kind of applications, and actually goes from millimeter to tens of meters. There are applications which need millimeter accuracy, which is like, seismology, tectonic movements, all that, applications are requiring millimeter accuracy, metrology, but at the same time, we have applications which are like, crop pattern analysis or decision support system or navigation, which are good enough with 10 meters. So let's not always get very, driven by the resolution. You don't need higher resolution for everything. You need a lot of applications of geospatial can be run with the kind of data available in the public domain, free of cost. But this is a slide which I really very much like because I've been 20 years in this industry, and when I came in this industry, I always heard about GIS is about decision support system. GIS is about decision support system. It makes you decisions, like it makes you visualize. But we did a comprehensive survey with the users and what kind of benefits those users are able to define of this technology is efficiency, productivity, planning, monitoring, and transparency. These are the five top applications or five top benefits which the users believe that they are getting out of deploying this technology. And that's where we have to focus that, geospatial is a tool for productivity, efficiency, compliance, and transparency. And that's phenomenal. That's what the governments are looking at. That's what the industry is looking at. That's what the society is looking at. And that's in this backdrop, I believe that the geospatial technology and the industry has a lot of value to play. It's a bigger gamut in terms of applications. If I have to categorize the geospatial industry, I would say in three categories. One is the professional geospatial domain. Most of us actually come from that domain, which means that we have the necessary knowledge, expertise, and the capacities to not only make maps, use maps, but also, develop the whole value chain. That's where you see the geospatial agency, or thematic mapping organizations, or commercial companies, or the professional user domains, which are basically traditional user domains like agriculture, urban, defense, municipalities. They have been using maps forever. And they do have the capacities to make use of this technology. But in the last 10 years, if you look at what has come up very strongly is the architecture, engineering, and constructions market, which is transport infrastructure, building infrastructure, industrial infrastructure. And on the left side is the location analytics and business intelligence market. And these two markets are so big that they are actually almost half of the geospatial market today. They are going at such an amazing speed. And that's how I would say that three major markets which I would like to see for geospatial industry. Economic impact, it's making a lot of impact. This is a study which has been done by Alphabeta on behalf of Google. They talked about consumer benefits, business benefits, and societal benefits. Let me give you just an example that since when we have started making use of maps for navigation, all of us are saving probably 5 to 10 minutes every day. Just imagine, start calculating that 5 minutes per day on an average saving from a global perspective of every consumer. Is going into billions and billions of dollars of saving in terms of time and in terms of consumption of vehicular movement. At the same time, it is also saving a lot of emissions. So that's the kind of impact our industry is making, which is directly connected to the society and economy. And this is the power of digital maps. So what does this study talk about is almost an industry of $400 billion services market. And this is the consumer market. This does not talk about the professional market. All of us can have questions about it, but I think that the methodology which they have used is so simple to believe that we are making an impact in our society and economy in almost every walk of life. This is the study which my company has done, which is more, I would say, focused on professional geospatial market. And we believe that we are about a $300 to $400 billion market with an average of about 13% growth every year. And, interestingly in this is you'll see the red color is the GNSS and positioning, which means the location-based services, which means the consumable applications of geospatial technology is probably the largest, player or largest share of our industry. Region-wise, and that also corroborates with this fact that if it is the positioning technology or the consumable technology is the largest, that's why you see the biggest growth coming up in Asia Pacific, because that's where we have about 3 billion people. 3 billion people, 3 billion telephone devices. And most of the people have moved up from They never had telephone at the landline. They always got they first got the mobile phones, and that's why the biggest growth is also seen in Asia Pacific market. This is a slide which talks about technology drivers, which talks about business processes. It actually talks about the applications, that how are we making an impact story. Impact story is not just about technology, but it's integration with the business processes and developing applications wherein you are able to incrementally increase the impact. And this is the we are working on this slide. This is about 2 years before slide, and we are working on revising this slide, which will come up in April again. Probably that will be more methodical, but just given a qualitative impact. Almost $1 market of geospatial technology is making almost $10 impact. Let's see that what are the trends. In terms of trend, we all have seen GIS, we all have seen location. GIS is a very old discipline. It's evolving very well. Location just came in. Initially, the location players thought that they are just talking of lat long. But when I interacted with several of the location players in last 3-4 years, and especially at the conference in GeoBase in San Francisco, the same location people, after talking to the geospatial leaders, started talking of geolocation. And that's what is very clearly visible in this graph, where the more you are looking at analytical and qualified location-based services, you are seeing the integration of GIS with the location-based companies. And that's why I would say that a company like Esri today takes pride in saying that they are a location company, because the power of geocoded database is so important, and it is improving the accuracy and resolutions of the location-based services. And that's the fact. I can vouch for it because I talked to various engineers across Google, Apple, and all. They do recognize the fact that geodatabase is so important. Location database without geodatabase has no meaning, or it has meaning, but it has a limited meaning. Similarly, in the BIM integration, you'll see across almost every aspect of building and constructions, be it from planning to design to project management to enterprise to facility to maintenance, you'll see that the deployment of geospatial across these BIM applications is increasing. The increase is displayed in the blue color, and that is why the blue color is seen as going up. Whereas only in one place where you see that design and modeling, because in the field of design, the geospatial was being used even earlier, and it does not have too much of meaning. It does not have too much of context. But because you use a lot into planning, and then you start using a lot into implementing the construction projects. So this is based on engineering community survey. It's not the geospatial community survey. This is the engineering community survey, which talks about such a integration of geospatial and BIM. Excuse me. Look at the business models. We're still talking about the platforms, but just amazingly coming up is that X as a service is a business model. Platform is at number 5, which means that platform, which was 2 years back seen as a biggest business model, has gone into the backdrop, because even the platform people are looking at service. So service as a model is the business model for our industry. Just to give you an example of how our companies are placed, this is a very detailed slide. You can have a look at it later. And this is how our industry is spread. So that's the kind of profiling of our companies. But why data protection and privacy policy has a challenge? It has a lot of reality and has a lot of myths. I would take 2 minutes to explain this. There's a lot of debate about data privacy. Rightly so. All the Android phones have access to our private data. Apps superstitiously giving access to our data. Cars collecting our data. Laptops, phones, everyone is collecting our data. And all this data is being used to influence things like our voting patterns or social media or online buying or insurance choices. So we are being made slaves of consumerism based on all this data which is being collected. But at the same time, there is so much going on around the world and so much legislations are around the world going on at this moment. Every country is looking at data protection policies. And what that data protection pillars means is national security, data sovereignty, data safety, data localization, and data privacy. Now, what I'm trying to say is that data privacy is just one component out of this five. And if you look at, which means 20%, there are other factors which are very, very important factors. But what gains momentum is the privacy, because it has some, sentimental issues. It has some sentimental connect. But rest of the four other elements, they're not as much about location as much about geospatial. What I would like to say, and this is my last slide, that 80% of the geospatial data doesn't necessarily fall in the category of personal data. It's just about 20% of the applications of geospatial data which actually falls into the personal privacy issues, which is consumerism. Even there, some of the big large enterprises are very having adopted very quality mechanisms to actually secure data and take your qualitative approvals. But despite that, the 80% of geospatial data does not have any linkage with the privacy. We are victim of public perception. We as an industry are victim of public perceptions. The World Geospatial Industry Council set up a legal firm to actually contracted a legal firm to get into this. And they came back to us with a report that it's very limited impact which is making to the professional geospatial market. But then the public perception is so big. And that is where we have a big challenge of actually making a lot of efforts and advocacy to clear this noise. I think there is a need for better education on privacy policy. I'm not at all saying that privacy policy should not be there. It should be there. It has to be there, because I'm also equally concerned about the kind of offers I get on my cell phone based on my behavior. I'm really concerned about that. But at the same time, for professional geospatial market, most of us who represent to that category, this is not something which has any kind of serious legal implications, but we are victims of this public perception. And that is a big challenge for where I see going forward that data privacy and the public policy will be the biggest challenge which our industry will be facing too. Thank you very much.